Welcome to Sport SA Daily Diary. It's day 23 of the lockdown and we're chatting to the first African woman to compete the Dakar Rally, Kirsten Landman. Good morning, Kirsten. How are we doing today?
Morning, Adam. All very good, thanks. Hope you are too.
Yeah, no, very, very good. Getting a little bit tired of lockdown, but we plod on, I suppose, and we fight the good fight. You're out in Durbs at the moment, eh? Hillcrest, how's it going out there?
It's a beautiful day. It would have been a cracker of a day for the beach. But yeah, we feels like winter's here, so we're definitely getting cold mornings, cold evenings, but I can't complain. It's a beautiful summer's wintry day and all good this side.
Kirsten, you didn't grow up in Hillcrest. You grew up as a Joburg girl.
Yep.
Were you always a tomboy? Did you always have ideals of wanting to ride a bike, or were you dressing up in little pretty dresses and playing with Barbie dolls?
No, complete opposite to that. I was a tomboy. I would never wore shoes. I would wear shorts, never wore skirts. It'd be a fight for my parents to let me wear my school uniform. Had short hair like a little boy. I grew up really close with my cousins, and my cousins were boys. And I played soccer throughout school. Not that I wanted to be a little boy, but I enjoyed it more. Thought that the boys had more fun. So all my friends going through school, majority boys, and I still am a tomboy, but I'm a little bit more girly now as I've grown up. But a lot more fun, I find, than doing my nails and going to shopping malls, and it just seems like admin.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, you say you played soccer. Did you play any other sports growing up?
Primary school I played soccer, high school and throughout school I actually swam nationally when I was in primary school and then provincially in high school. So I was a good swimmer growing up. And then now that I'm in KZN, I do a bit of surfing. I love mountain biking. I do a lot of trail running with my dog. She loves running, so I have to try to keep up with her when she runs. And I just like to be outdoors. Anything outdoorsy. I skate. I would go down to the promenade in Durban and I longboard. I just try to keep it interesting and fun.
So, have you always been interested in the extreme sports, or the dangerous sports as people perceive them to be?
I've always, you call me an adrenaline junkie. So yes, dangerous sports or adrenaline junkie sports. I like I thrive off of stuff that's challenging, and I think adrenaline sports alone are challenging. So stuff like surfing, skating, motorbikes, anything that'll get your adrenaline pumping, I really enjoy.
And when did you find a love for motorbikes, Kirsten?
Jeez, that was my first love. It's my first love and my number one love. That came at the age of 8. Like I said, I grew up close with my cousins. We lived in the same complex, and he got his first bike at the age of 3. So he was really young when he got his bike because his dad rode, my uncle rode, and he got his little KTM 50 SX, and I fell in love. I fell in love with his bike, and ever since then, and at the time I was 7, and I was already training to be in the provincial squad. My father started me really early for swimming, and I nagged him and nagged him and nagged him, and then he started buying me bike magazines. And I remember tearing out the centerfold of a magazine, and it was a little KTM 650, and I stuck it on my wall. And I nagged my father until he made a deal with me and said to me, Kirsten, if you make the provincial swimming squad, the Gauteng provincial swimming squad, I will buy you a motorbike. And needless to say, at the age of 8, I got my first little Pee-wee 80. And ever since then, it was that's when my life started. I don't remember anything before that, and thereafter was just bikes, bikes, bikes.
Sure, I remember as a kid getting the Shoot Soccer magazine and pulling out the centerfolds of the soccer players and putting them all over my wall. You obviously had motorbikes. Yeah, no, exactly.
I had bikes. That's awesome.
And Kirsten, when did you then start racing with the bikes? And were you holding your own with the boys right from the start?
So I think with any sport with parents, when they're cautious, they want to see, especially something like motorsport. My dad can go out and buy all the kits and the bike and everything. The bike wasn't the best motorbike. It was a second-hand little PV80, but it did the job. and I didn't have any kits. I started riding with I literally would ride with tackies, slops, or tackies and slops. I remember even riding with slops, and one time someone shouted at me and said, "You can't ride in slops." I'd wear shorts and a t-shirt. I didn't even have a helmet. So I think my father initially just bought it to see if I had the interest, and then he saw that I was really interested. Then slowly started to wean in the better kit. I remember I used to duct tape my boots together. My pants were too short for me. They were like 3/4 pants. I had the oldest, crappiest helmet with goggles that were so scratched. But eventually he slowly started to see that I was really interested in it. And then I used to go to the track with my cousin and my uncle. And then from there he bought me, because already at the age of 8 I was too big for the PV80 because I was quite tall as a kid. And he got me a little RM85, which was a proper full spec motorbike. You could call it, we used to call it a racing bike in the day, but it's just a full spec motorbike. And with that I got all the gear, and that was it. That's when I started racing at the age of 14. So there was quite a big gap from 8 until 14 that I hadn't started racing, where my father was just seeing if I really enjoyed it. But I had the bike for about a year and a half before I started racing, and then we used to live in Dainfern, and on the outside of Dainfern, where Stain City is now, was a place called Daytona, and they used to have club races on the weekends, and I started entering the club races. And at the time when I started racing, I mean, seeing a woman on a motorbike was unheard of. So racing against women definitely was not a thing. And I would enter into the little 85 class against the boys. And I started, I mean, there was about 5 or 6 guys in the class. And I remember my first race, I came third against the boys.
Sure.
And my father was like, okay, you know, this was a little club race. It wasn't a big race. It wasn't like a national event. It was just a small little club race. And he saw that, sure, okay, Kirsten's got something. So my father loved it as much as I did. I mean, going out on weekends and prepping the bike and washing the bike and then going to the track on the weekend, he loved it. So for him, it was also a passion. And then he started to see that I did really well. And then it just came from there. I mean, and I loved it. For me, it wasn't about the competition. It was just I was out there riding my bike and having fun. And it just went from there. First race at the age of 14, and then I just started racing throughout school. My priority, well, my parents' priority was for me to finish school, concentrate on schoolwork and my school sport, which I was very involved with. I love my school sports. And then when I left school, that's when I took it seriously, because my parents gave me the opportunity to have a gap year where I could, you know, try and make it, because it was getting expensive and they couldn't afford it anymore. I had the bike and I now had to try to get sponsors. So I put my head down and grafted hard for a year. Funded my own racing in terms of putting fuel in the bike and paying for my race entries by working part-time jobs. And it worked, because at the end of 2010, I got my first sponsorship.
And Kirsten, did you have any dreams or ambitions in terms of, obviously you wanted to race and you wanted to ride professionally, but was there ever that big goal that you'd set yourself up with?
You know, it's so funny. I was on another interview on, not last night, the night before. I don't even know what day of the week we're on. And I was on it was a joint conference, and the girl that was there was 17 years old, and she's from Holland, and she's 17, and she had the aspirate. Right now, her goal is to finish top 5 in the women's motocross worldwide championship. And at the age of 17, I didn't even think I could make a career out of motorsports. I mean, perpetually being told, going through school, and you know, not saying that my parents didn't believe in me, but they were like, will you make it being a female in a male-dominated sport and in the motorsport industry? And the chances of that are slim to none. I think that they did it cautiously because they didn't want me to be disappointed, or they wanted me to have another backup plan, you know, or something else other than racing, because with racing comes injuries, and they had seen me go through so many injuries already. And when you get injuries, you get setbacks. So they were kind of saying to me, yeah, the biking may get you somewhere, but you need to have another plan. And when I left school and I had that gap year, the thing is, I love this. And I always swore to myself to do something that I love from a young age, because I thrive off of being physical and being active. So I wanted to make a career in doing something that I love. And for me, the most passionate thing I was passionate about was riding motorbikes. And that gap year, where I worked really hard in terms of training and racing, and trying to get sponsors, it made me that was a very big change in my life. That going from first year out of school in 2010, where if I really worked hard, I could get sponsors, and I did. My goal was to get sponsors, and I got picked up by sponsorship. Then I kind of clicked, hey, maybe this is something I can do going forward and actually make a career out of it. Not necessarily raking in the millions, but I could live up to my dreams of racing nationally, and hopefully, at that time, my goal was to get to the roof of Africa, which wasn't impossible, nor was it really hard to get done. And I never dreamed of ever doing the Dakar. I never dreamed of finishing Roof of Africa Gold. I mean, what I've done now, it's gone by so quickly, but it's stuff that I would never have ever thought was possible. I'm not saying that I doubted myself, but I'm like, I can't believe it, and to have done it within racing from properly professionally from the age of 19 to 28, all within 10 years. Well, it's at 8 years, 9 years. Yeah, it's crazy.
Very quick. And I mean, Kirsten, you talk about injuries. Tell us about 2013, because that was quite a time in your career. Obviously, you had a big crash, and it could have gone either way. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so 2013 was a very big change in my life, and I think back on it now, and I wouldn't change a thing. It gave me a new outlook on life. So what happened was I was racing in the Toyota Desert 1000. It's a race out in Botswana. This one was in Gaborone, just outside of Gaborone. And you race 500 kilometers, 2-day race, 500 kilometers on the one day, 500 on the second day. We're on the second day of racing. And I was sitting behind another rider for quite a while, tried to make the pass on the rider, and they instantly slammed on brakes, and there was a tree stump to my right. And because of the nature of the track, from being double grooved from the quads and cars racing on it the day before, my front wheel washed, and I fell to the right, and there was a tree stump waist height, and I impacted with my stomach. And due to being out in the middle of the desert, the medics not being able to find me, and the time from them to try to find me, to getting medical treatment, then getting back to Gaborone private, them not picking up what was wrong with me. They just thought that I had soft tissue damage, and then eventually getting heli-vaced, flown out of Gaborone International Airport back to Lanseria, then to Unitas Hospital, to where my doctor was until I got operated, was 36 hours. And 1 in 8 hours, 8 hours is critical, and 1 in 4 people survive what I went through. So what happened is I severed my pancreas off my small intestine, and your small intestine carries all your waste, and that had been sitting in my stomach now for 36 hours, and all my organs had gone septic. At the time, where I had no idea what was wrong with me, I went in, got operated on, and woke up 2 weeks later. I was put onto life support and put into an induced coma for 11 days to speed up recovery and to clean me out and keep opening up and cleaning me out because of my organs going septic. I was very lucky to be sitting now, having this conversation with you, because on my last checkup with my doctor, he said to me, "How you are alive, I have no idea. Clinically, you should have been dead." And he's not. No, doctors, they're not men of many words. So he said, "You make me believe in miracles." And from that, I came out. I was very frustrated, very angry. There was a very bit of I was not necessarily in a depression, but I was very cross at a lot of things in my life. But it turned around very quickly, and I realized that I've been given a second chance on life. And from that, I sought to never ever take another day for granted. And my number one passion, as soon as my mother said, as soon as I came back to my senses after I'd woken up from the coma, first thing I wanted to do was ride my motorbike. And I asked her, "Is my bike okay?" And I said to her, "I'm going to get ready for the Roof of Africa," which was later, another 5 months later. 5 months later that year. Obviously, I didn't do it that year. I was on my back for quite a while, and it took me quite a long time to build up my strength again. But that's my passion. And in that, I came back in 2014 with a bang. I got fit, I got strong, and I did my first ever international race in Romania called Romaniacs. in 2014, and ever since then I've just gone from strength to strength. And while doing it all, I've made sure that I've had fun and made time for my family and made time for my friends, and found the love in the sport as opposed to the competitiveness. And with the fun has come the competitiveness and the success. So my accident was at the time very dark and bitter for me, but like now I say I don't regret it, because not many of us get second chances of life at life, and I did. And I often think back to that, and it brings me back down to earth, and it reminds me that we are only human, and that the human body is exceptionally fragile. And you've got to live each day like it's your last, because yes, I honestly thought that I was invincible, and before my accident, and then my accident came, and it's like I say, it brought me back down to earth.
A lot of lesser people would never have got back on the bike. I mean, to get back on the bike, it was incredibly brave. Was that first ride when you were back on a nerve-wracking experience, or did you get back on completely confident? And since then, do you ride with the same confidence that you had previously?
So my first ride, I couldn't wait to get back on the bike, but I was also terrified. I mean, there's still days that I ride today that I'm scared. That fear has never gone away. I don't think it ever will. I thought that doing the Dakar Rally would take away that fear, but I think in a way it's created more. It's like I went back and I raced the Desert 1000 again in 2018, hoping to overcome that fear, that finally finished the race that nearly ended my life. It did. I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted on my shoulder, and each ride that I've done, it has been a progression, but it's something like that never leaves your mind. Breaking an arm on a motorbike, getting back on, that's small, that's minor, but something like this, because of what it's taken to overcome it, and what I've gone through, and what the trauma of that, it never leaves. But at the same time, it's made me a wiser rider. Before then I was kind of gung-ho, and I would just hang it out, and like I said, I thought I was invincible. I ride now, I would like to say I'm more of a calculated rider now, and over all the years of having the accidents and having that big one, I've become a very cautious rider, and it's paid off. So it's in a way, it's been a really good thing, because I know my limits, and I know what I can do and what I can't do. And it's like I said, I think it's certainly made me a better rider. But in a way, I do believe it's held me back a lot in terms of my capabilities. For example, going down a straight, in a race, in the technical sections, I'm really good. I think my technical skill is really good, because I've only done technical riding since my accident, and that's because I didn't want to go fast again. And when in our races we have technical sections, and the sections open up and they become faster again, I've had this mental block. I won't go over fourth gear. Anything over 80, 90 kilometers an hour, I completely back off, and I'm just like, it's not worth it. I don't want to crash, because I know the repercussions of a crash, of having a high-speed crash. And in that section where the time that I made up in the technical section, and the guys that I passed in the technical section, they all come flying past me in the fast stuff. So, but then again, it's something that it's my problem that I think about, and it's may have held me back, but also in doing that, I'm happy with what I've accomplished and where I am. So yes, it's held me back, but it's also, I've had very few injuries since then, touch wood, and but that's because I've learned my lesson.
Well, I mean, you say it's held you back. You've won how many Roof of Africas now? Between 2015 and 2018, you won them all. That kind of speaks for itself, really, that you're not holding yourself back, and you're winning races. You won another 5 other races in 2018, the X-Race, Namibia, to name a few. So you really are the leading lady in South Africa. So you can't be holding yourself back that much.
I'm hard on myself. I want to beat the guys, and I want to win against them. Yes, I'm always the first lady, mostly because of the time I'm the only crazy lady to be doing the gold class in these events. But my goal is to beat the guy in front of me, and then so on and so on and so on. I've only been racing against guys my whole life, so I don't know any difference. I'm a fellow I'm an equal competitor. I see myself as an equal fellow competitor amongst them. I don't see myself as yes, I am a female, but because I've been racing against them, I do all my training with the guys. I do whenever I'm riding, I ride with guys. So I don't expect any female treatment, help. I don't ask for help here because I'm a female. I'm a fellow competitor. I race against them, and I want to position against them. So that's where I'm hard on myself in terms of I want to be faster to be able to beat the guys.
Okay. And Kirsten, when did the Dakar become a possibility and a reality?
I'm a huge fan of the Dakar. I have been my whole life. Any motorsport enthusiast loves the Dakar. I've never wanted to race it. Reason being because of my accident in 2013. It's high speed. Yeah. It's dangerous. There's been many deaths over all the years of the Dakar's been going, and it's everything that I'm afraid of in a race. That's the Dakar Rally. And after 2016, I just finished the Roof of Africa Gold class, and I was on an interview, and the interviewer asked me, what's next? Because by that time I'd done Romaniac Sea to Sky, I'd done Roof, I'd done Megawatt, I'd done Brave Man, I'd done all the races, everything pretty much except Erzberg, and I'd been the first female to finish them. And he said to me, you've pretty much done everything in the world apart enduro. What are you going to do now? And I said to him, oh, I didn't even have an answer for him. So he said, what about the Dakar Rally? And I said to him, if you came to my door now and you put 2 million rand on my front doorstep and say, yeah, go to the Dakar Rally, I would say thanks, but no thanks. Reason being from my accident and my fear of high speed. But that's when the seed was planted. I then thought to myself, and then along came Joey Evans, and he just finished the Dakar in January of 2017. So going from Roof to Dakar, a really close gap. Dakar, the Roof was in December 2016, and then Joey just finished his Dakar. Bumped into KTM at the KTM headquarters in Joburg in about March of 2017. His bike had just been sent back, and this bloke was pumped, excited, and I'd met Joey once before that, and I just couldn't wait to hear about his story, because everyone who does the Dakar, I love hearing their stories, and I knew that he had the most incredible story because I had tracked his journey. And we were sitting, and he was telling me what he had gone through and all the experiences. And he said, Kirsten, to my recollection, I think that there hasn't been a African or South African woman that has ever done the Dakar. And if there's any South African woman that can do it, it's you. And I said, Joey, you know me, I steer away from the high speed stuff. Dakar, I love it. I love the race and I love watching it, but I don't want to race it. He said to me, why? And I said, my accident and whatnot. And he actually laughed at me and he said, I learned to walk again. You can do this. And you can't argue with that. So just the background on Joey Evans is he got paralyzed racing many years ago at a normal hare scramble, and paralyzed from the waist down. He learned to walk again, he learned to ride again, and then he went and did the Dakar. He is the most inspirational human being, and he's been a huge part of my journey into going to Dakar. And he's the guy, I always say, this was your stupid idea, and it was. And he helped me through it. He mentored me through the whole thing. He trained me. And so 2017, the seed was planted, and I spent that whole year of 2017 since March chatting with Joey. I did my homework, did my research, found out all the facts, and I did find out that no African woman had ever done the Dakar on a motorbike. And a big part of the main reason for it was actually to overcome my fear of high-speed racing. Reason being because, like I said earlier, I believe it had been holding me back in my extreme races. Because I didn't want to go fast, I felt it was holding me back. So I need to get fast again. I need to get comfortable fast again. And if I'm comfortable fast again, which means I'll be ready for the Dakar. So it was like a step process into making this Dakar decision. End of 2017, I approached my sponsors, of course, my family first. They weren't very happy about it, but they know once I make my mind up, there's no back. And the boss from KTM South Africa, Francisca, said to me, I'm all in to support you, but if you want to see if you're capable of racing Dakar, you have to go back into off-road racing, which means that you have to go back to the Desert 1000, which was a part of our national series. So 2018, she gave me an off-road bike. to start racing, and I got back into the off-roads, which was so hard. That year was a real hard year for me, getting back into the fast stuff, going fast again. And then, of course, come around June 2018, 5 years later, I was back in Botswana racing the Desert 1000. I had actually made myself, not purposely, but from the anxiety and the nerves and dreading going back and racing, I full-blown flu by the time I was on the start line of the race. I was so sick. I probably should not have raced because I was so sick, but I was there and I had Dakar in sight, and I knew I had to get through this. And finishing that race, I think for me, it's probably one of my biggest accomplishments amongst those other ones there, like with Roof and Romaniacs and Dakar. That is one of my biggest achievements, because crossing that finish line was like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. And once I had done that, I was like, okay, I can do this. We're one step ahead to getting ready for Dakar. So from there, 2018, I carried on racing the off-road series. 2019, back into the off-roads, but come around 2019, I knew I had to qualify for the Dakar. So like Comrades and these big events, you have to qualify. You can't just enter the race. They need to know that you are capable for safety requirements and that you can navigate and that you can ride that many days on the motorbike. So as a part of qualifying for the Dakar, you have to compete in one of the 4 world rallies, or like a sister race or a stepping stone to Dakar is a rally called the Mazouga Rally in Morocco. And it's a 6-day stage race. And we did between 1,500, 2,000 kilometers over the 6 days. But what they do is they test you in every way possible. So the rally is really technical in terms of road book, in terms of the terrain that you ride and the hours that you're on the bike. So that if you do the Mazouga and you finish the Mazouga with no penalties in terms of you don't make any navigation mistakes, you finish all your things on time and you have no problems and no speeding fines, you get an automatic entry into the Dakar. So my goal was to get to Morocco in April of 2019. But with this whole rallying, it's an exceptionally expensive sport. I thought that racing enduro was expensive, but rally is on another level. So I needed a sponsor, and a lot of people said the biggest part of the Dakar rally is not going to be racing the Dakar, it's going to be getting to the Dakar. And I fully believe that, because you're sitting in front of well, first of all, you've got to find the contacts in terms of corporates, because you can't approach family and friends, because the sum of money that you need is you got to go corporate. And you're now sitting in front of these big corporates, and you're telling them that you want to go to the Dakar, but I still need to qualify. And a lot of them said to me, I'll come back once you've qualified, but I needed 250,000 rand to qualify. That's what my qualifying rally would have cost for me to just qualify. And then if I don't qualify, I'm not going to Dakar. So that was really hard. You've got this goal in the sight of Dakar, but you still need to qualify. And qualifying alone was so expensive. I mean, 250,000 rand pays for half years of normal racing for me. I mean, that's a lot of money. And we sat down. I made a contact to a guy that I trained many years ago at one of the rally raids. I was I was a guide on the route to help the guys get through. And his name's Brad. He's now my manager. He had a contact with Ryobi, and he came and did a training trip with me at the farm, because I do training schools, because they were beginners at the time on bikes. And he was asking me about how my Dakar's going. And this was like end of 2018. And they came and did a tour here. And I said, listen, I'm turning in circles. It's one thing sending out CVs, but it's to who the right person you send it to, and it's getting the message across that you need. And I'm not a businesswoman. I ride bikes, and I've done sport my whole life. I don't know much about that. And I know how to be an athlete. I don't know how to sell myself as an athlete, So I've learned a hell of a lot now. So he said, I've got contacts in the corporate world. Let me help you. And I was willing to take any offer in hand that I could take. And he set me up with Ryobi Africa. And so this was February 2019 now. once business had gone back to normal, and the Mizuga rally was in April. So we were 2 months away from the qualifying rally, and I needed 250K. So we sat down with Roby and the guys from Roby Africa, and I told them my story. I told them my passion, like I'm telling you now, and how much I love the sport and why I wanted to do the Dakar. And I chatted about my life and my dogs and whatnot. And they said to me, we had 2 meetings. We went back on our second meeting, and they said to us, okay, we all in. And I'm like, that doesn't, what do you mean? I don't understand. What does all in mean? He says, we are all in or nothing. So we'll be the title sponsor. So I'm like, okay, cool. For the qualifying run, you guys will pay for the qualifying run. He said, no, we're paying for your whole budget, Dakar, qualifying rally, everything.
Awesome.
And I just started crying. I sat there and the tears started running down my face, because that's unheard of. You know, you deal with athletes and you're an athlete yourself. To get one sponsor on board to support you for everything is absolutely unheard of. And from my side, it makes my life so much easier. You're looking after one sponsor. You know, you're not juggling and trying to keep this one happy and that one happy. And that was it. We were going to Dakar, and that's when it really hit home. Like, I was like, holy shit, you're going to Dakar. Because before, you're worrying about everything else. You're worrying about getting to Dakar, finding the money, finding the sponsors, blah, blah, blah. And now all I had to worry about was getting ready for the Dakar. So, I mean, it was incredible. We went to Mizuga. I qualified. I had a perfect race. And after that, it was just counting down the days, which seems so long, but actually went so quickly, till January 2020. And it's a whirlwind. And now think about it now. We're 4 months after Dakar, and I can't believe it's done. And it was a success. And I can't believe it's over.
And come Dakar, you weren't the only South African lady to be going. You were joined by Tay. Was it a competitive relationship, or was it a let's get through this together relationship?
It was. So that was, you know, when I came out with my Dakar announcement in 2018, I was the only African female to be doing it. So we went with the whole hashtag First African Female Dakar 2020. The last time I'd raced against Tay was in 2013, actually at the Desert 1000, all those years ago. And she kind of had just, not just necessarily disappeared off the scene, but I hadn't seen her racing, maybe because I had been doing hard enduro extreme races, and she's a faster rider. And also she hadn't been competing on the national series, so I hadn't really seen her. And then I saw her announcement in January of 2019 that she was doing the Dakar, and she was also running with the hashtag First African Female Dakar 2020. So from there, it already started to become competitive, you know. And it was just you know, from her team that was backing her, and in my team, it became very competitive. It did. And for me, it was hard to grasp in the beginning, but it was healthy, because I had now not just the goal to finish the Dakar Rally, I now had to race against Tay to become the first African woman to finish the Dakar, because that's a title that's really important, you know. And as my career has gone, I've been the first female to do a lot of things, and I wanted to do this, you know. And so, you know, it did become, you know, it wasn't the way I would have liked it to have turned out. You know, it would have been cool if we had teamed up and done things together, but it just turned out the way that it didn't. And it became a really competitive thing there. You know, while I was racing, I saw her out there a few times, and don't get me wrong, Tay is an exceptionally flippin' good rider, and she's really fast. You know, on a fast straight, she comes flying past me, and I can't hang with her. I just can't. And at the first few stages at the Dakar Rally, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I was getting so frustrated because I couldn't keep up with her, and the gap of her getting away from me was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was getting really upset with myself. And you know, I saw that title of the first African female slipping away, and also because there'd been so much pressure created from everyone back home. You know, there was this whole thing like, who's going to be the first African female, you know, and then they had the Tay party, and then they had the Curse party, and then we were playing off against one another. I think for the viewers, they loved it because it was exciting. You know, everyone's favorites, I believe, on the Dakar app were Tay and Kirsten. They would see who was winning. But I had to keep reminding myself what my goal was. And initially, my goal was to finish the Dakar Rally, and that was that. And in my build up to the Dakar and the 2.5 years of preparation and speaking to people and getting as much knowledge as I can from guys like Alfie and guys like Daryl Curtis, Joey Evans, and then speaking to Laia Sands and also to Anastasia Nifantova, all these women that I had made contact that had done Dakar over the years, I had spoken to them and they just said to me, do not get caught up in the fact that it's a race. This is your first Dakar. You're there to finish. There'll be many other Dakars you can come back and race. The biggest mistake most people made, and this is what I was told by them, if they go and race the first Dakar, they either unfortunately crash out with an injury or they break their motorbike because they crash too many times and they break their bike.
Yeah.
And I crashed once at Dakar, and I did it over the edge of a dune. It wasn't a high-speed crash, and I swore to myself, I'm not going to drop this motorbike again because there's two things that are going to get me to the finish line: my motorbike and myself. And if I crash, I might damage the motorbike, and if I crash, I might damage myself. So I even kept writing it on my navigation map so I could see it, stay calm, stay focused, and keep the wheels turning, get to the finish line. That was my goal. And after rest day, the rest day was really important because I had to do a lot of mind work and meditation to calm myself down, because those first 5 stages I had built up so much frustration that I was even riding worse, and I wasn't there to do what I was supposed to do, what I originally set out to do. I was now there to race Tay, which wasn't what the point was. I was there. My goal was to finish, and can't control. She was faster than me, and that's that. Tay's a much faster rider than me, and when it comes to high speed stuff. And after the rest, I was okay with that. And she was riding in a really good race, and then I was just like, okay, you're going to finish now, you're going to finish safely, and you're going to look after your bike. And then comes stage 11, and everything turned around, with Tay pushing to make up more positions or open the gap between her and I. She kept crashing, and the bikes can only take so many crashes, and she had a fault with the fuel pump. I came past her on the dune, and I checked if she was okay, and I offered assistance, and she said, no, you're fine, carry on. Finished that stage, and she only came in that night, midnight, so she had a really long day, but to have got to the finish line of that, still finished within time, and then get on the bike and race the next day. Huge hats off and respect to her for doing that. But with this and with my experience gained over time, and obviously with the research that I had done, it's a long race. It's the Dakar Rally, and it's the hardest event in the world for a reason. And the saying, slow and steady wins the race, and it just seemed to have worked in my favor. That it worked out that I looked after my bike and I looked after myself. And like I said, at the time, my head was doing so many things. You're so frustrated. You're dealing with the high speed of the race. You're racing against someone else. You're racing against fellow competitors. You're seeing accidents all around you. So I was battling with the high speed of the race and my accidents, and battling trying to race Tay and trying to become the first African woman. But at the same time, I'm trying to finish the rally. It was all very overwhelming. It was an extremely emotional race. But I look back at it now, and I couldn't have raced a smarter race. The race was perfect, and I couldn't have done it any better. When at my first stage I finished 96, and if you look at my times, they were so consistent. I never got any faster, but because I was consistent and didn't lose any time or didn't make any navigational mistakes, I slowly climbed up the overall ranking, and to have finished 55th, I never expected that. To finish, when I was on the podium, I got a bunch of flowers and a trophy, and I even said to the guy David Castera, who's the organizer, I said, what is this? He's like, you're the 3rd female. And I didn't look at the rankings. I wasn't watching the rankings. After stage 5, I swore not to look at the rankings. I avoided myself with social media, so I couldn't see the whole Tay Perry Kirsten race. And I was just like, you're there to race your own race. And it worked. And I can't say anything more. I'm just overwhelmed and very happy. I like I said, I couldn't have done it any better.
Yeah, and you did it for yourself. Kirsten, very proudly, I see the medal there behind you. What's next?
Oh, the same question everyone asked me. Dakar's given me a lot of clarity. It's made me realize my true passion. I thought I was going to go to Dakar, and I thought that I might fall in love with high-speed racing and love that thing. But it's made me realize how much I love hard enduro and how much I love the extreme stuff. It's what I thrive off. The harder it is, and the more physical and the more technical it is, the more excited I get. So for me, extreme enduro is my passion. I love the whole extreme enduro series. I love racing the international races. I mean, this year we were supposed to do the whole West Series, which is the extreme series worldwide, with the first one being now in May, which has been cancelled, and the second one being end of May, which has been cancelled. So we've kind of written off the whole year in terms of extreme races, unfortunately. But in a way, it's all right. It gives me time to focus on the doors that Dakar has opened up for me. I've started doing a lot of motivational talks since I got back from Dakar, and I'm enjoying that, to be able to motivate people about my passion. I mean, to talk to an audience of 500-600 people who know nothing about motorbikes, but are inspired by the story of never giving up and keep going and just following your passion and love for something, and especially doing that in a male-dominated industry. A lot of people tend to enjoy that and stuff. So we're focusing on that, and this year it'll just give me time to create a Kirsten Landman brand, a business, and then going into next year, I think when everything calms down around the world as well, I definitely want to go back and do the full World Extreme Series. I want to do Erzberg. I want to tick races that no females done or completed. So that's my goal in the Extreme Enduro Series. And I also want to do more developmental stuff with riders, maybe start up a race team and take on young females and grow with them and teach them, because I definitely believe that a rider like Lia's Sons is setting the pace of that, in terms of, you can race worldwide on the world level, you just as the best in the world. So I mean, I don't believe that there's any difference between male and female in terms of racing. Just it's just been a delay in terms of the exposure for female. So I want to develop riders to be able to, female riders, to get to that level where they're the same. I mean, the youngsters that are racing now are beating the boys, and that's true. And they're young females. So I definitely want to do something like that, because that's something I would have loved. I would have loved to have someone take me under their wing and grow and teach me and expose me to the right sponsors and do the right thing from the thing. I learned so much with dealing with racing. I've burnt my fingers many times, but there was no one else in the female industry doing it before me to learn from. So I want to do it the right way and help young riders and develop them into hopefully a world champion one day here from South Africa or something like that.
Yeah. So Kirsten, following on from that and following on from your motivational speaking, if you were standing in front of one 8-year-old Kirsten, what would you say to her?
Oh man, I would do exactly what I've done, and don't give up on what you love. There's so many times people will do something and a spanner will get thrown into the works, or you'll get injured, or you'll lose out, you won't have money, or so many times people just give up. And I've seen that now with the youth of today, is if all their stars don't align, they just give up on it, and they give up too easily. My stars didn't align. I made them align. I worked hard for it, and it's if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And so I certainly, my biggest thing is if you love it, you stick with it, and with love and passion comes the profession. And like I say, everyone says if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I'm just so fortunate to have created a career out of my racing. And I wouldn't change a thing with my path and where I've gone from a little 8-year-old girl staring at a poster on a wall to where I am today, because it's certainly, I've surprised myself in many ways with perseverance and never give up attitude. So that would be it. Just do what you love and stick with it. And don't listen to what other people say, because if I had listened to what other people have said all those years ago, I don't even know what I'd be doing now. I'd probably be in a job I hate. Study something I didn't want to study behind a desk. No offense to people that sit behind a desk, but everyone's passions are different. But we are the creators of our own destiny, and that's pretty much sums it up. What you put out is what you will receive, and how hard you work for it is what you create.
Yeah. Kirsten, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. It's flown by. Good luck with 2021. Unfortunately, 2020 seems to be a bit of a no starter. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you on the podiums right around the world.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Adam. I really appreciate the time, and awesome work that you're doing with the podcast. I love listening to them, so thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Take care of yourself.
Cheers, eh? Bye.
Cheers, bye. Tune into tomorrow's episode of Sport SA Daily Diary, where we'll be chatting to South African golfer Toto Timber Jr.